there's the oldest profession in the world, and then about 5 minutes after that, oracles came along. And oracles are deep as history goes, like even older than recorded history. We've had oracles, and there are a couple different reasons why I think we've had oracles, and their primary role in society has changed as we moved from a hunter-gatherer kind of world into an agrarian one, into an industrialized civilization and science and all that kind of thing. So basically, imagine that we are back in 30,000 BC or whatever, and we are going out hunting. Well, it turns out that animals are phenomenal pattern recognition creatures. I mean, human beings are incredible pattern recognition creatures, and we do it in a pre-conscious, pre-logical way. And then we call it intuition and vibes, and I had a feeling and all that kind of stuff. But animals have that too. And if you want to see how good creatures are at pattern recognition, go train a chicken. Chickens can be trained. Like in the 1800s, there were chickens that apparently could do math and they would tour the world. And it was because the chicken has been trained to peck out the number that the handler was secretly signaling the chicken using hand signals for the chicken to peck out the correct number. And they were very subtle, hard to see from the outside, but it's because chickens are very trainable, but they are ruthless in input and output. If you train them and there's an exception, they'll just go, oh, all the stuff that we did doesn't matter, and I'm going to ignore it. So you have to be extraordinarily consistent with it, and the chicken will be trained. It's amazing. So imagine that we are going out on the hunt, not for chickens, but for big game. And unfortunately, human beings, we are creatures of habit. We will think that we are being random, but we wind up playing out the same programs in our heads. And that happens to me when I'm on tour. I'll drive 15 hours in the middle of nowhere, and I'm on hour 6 of the drive, and I'll think, okay, I'm going to stop, and this place looks good. Never been here before, exit, and then I turn and it hits me like, oh yeah, I was here 7 years ago, and right around the corner is this little store that was great, and okay, cool. So it's this really weird island of recognition, but it was the exact same program of I've been driving for a while. What does a good exit look like? This looks right to me. This will be the one that I take. And none of that is conscious. I'm just picking one at random, but it winds up being the same random one 7 years apart, multiple places in the country. So that applies to hunting because we go out on the hunt and we think we're being random, but we are running the same pattern, and therefore we're going to go to the same place. We're going to go hunting in the same areas, and the animals in that area realize that, hey, when these sounds show up and those creatures show up, we start dying. So we're going to recognize that pattern and leave this area. So then we think that we're being all sneaky and we're trying to go on the hunt. Where is everything? Where's all the game? We don't know because we aren't aware of those patterns. So we consult the oracle. We look for signs and portents, and we might roll the bones, and the bones say that we should go that way. So in a way, we are using those oracles as intentional chaos engines to interrupt our non-logical, non-conscious patterns that get us stuck in the same ruts. And that way we can go to new areas and see new stuff and go hunt and bring something back for our tribe. So that in my book is why oracles first started, was to get us out of our own habitual patterns that we don't know about. Okay. So then civilization happens and we're more agrarian and it's all about life cycles and we're back into the ruts. And then we've got the oracles of Delphi, which you would go to the oracles of Delphi, you would write down your question or what you would want to ask the gods. What answer do you need from the gods? You would write it down on a little piece of paper, or if you didn't know how to read good and you couldn't write, then the priest or priestess would transcribe it for you, roll it up and put it in the wall. Then you would go see the oracle of Delphi, who was high as a kite. And then they would babble and say nonsense. And then the priests would take that nonsense and then interpret it into the message. And it wouldn't be like you left your keys under the couch cushion. It's never that specific. It's always something general. And then you take that and then go, oh, that applies to me this way. And then the meaning of that message is yours to create. And because it's in the context of your own mind and your own life, that seemingly random message connects in a way that you make that connection, and therefore it feels more meaningful. And that's the value of the oracle. And then that brings us to the 1400s through the 1700s, where playing card technology, the ability to print things in mass, well, that gives rise to playing cards and poker. And then tarot comes along. Well, tarot is a Christian self-help book for people who don't read good. So they put 22 messages in picture format in a numbered sequence. Not numbered, that's the Fool. Then Magician is the first one because you are the magician, you're the creator of your life. And then it goes all the way through card number 21, even though that non-numbered card is actually the 22nd card. But 1 through 21 is the cycle, and the Fool can travel through them and all that kind of stuff, right? So each card has its own message. And spoiler alert, I've read tarot cards for years professionally. People bring me in, and I don't think there's anything magical to them. There's no witchcraft, there's no voodoo. And like I said, it's a Christian self-help book. That's all it is. But it's the magic of poetry. If you've ever heard a song that you're like, oh my goodness, this is me, this is my situation, I love this song so much. Well, the person who wrote that song, they don't know you, they've never met you before, they didn't have you in mind when they wrote it. But we can't help but to put ourselves into any context that we see. And when you're hearing those lines of poetry, the real magic is the connection to meaning that you have in response to those lyrics and that song or whatever the cards are telling you. So it's a lot like flipping a coin. It comes up heads. And in that instant, you realize, I really wish it had been tails. That's weird to me too, because for 3 weeks, you haven't been able to figure out what in the world you want. But then when you flip a coin, suddenly it's now clear. Well, that's because the coin is a physical thing. And when you only have the thoughts in your head and you come up with a reason for something and a reason against something, you can just do that on infinite loop until kingdom come. So when you flip the coin, it's an external physical reality. And then when it comes up heads, you have that emotional response to understand the decision you've already made, but not allowed yourself to accept or understand. So that's why the coin flip isn't right or wrong. It's just useful for you to understand how you've already felt about something. And then tarot cards are just a more complicated coin flip. And the message of the cards, it's on you to figure out how it connects to your life. And I can't tell you how many times I've just straight up said, here's what the card means. Here's the picture in my head that I'm seeing in response to the question you asked, which gave us the context, the meaning of the card coming together. And then in my head, here's what comes up. And then the person sitting there going, how in the world did you know? How do you know? And they're making all the connections that I have no clue about at all. Like I'm not claiming the mojo in any way, shape, or form. It's just the magic of meaning. Okay. So in solo role playing games, it can be difficult to get out of your own head. And you wind up getting in a rut, and then you go, now what? Well, the only thing I can think of is the same stupid thing I've already done 7 times already. I don't know. So you consult the oracle that, in my book, should be vague enough to give you room to interpret it, and it's that mixture of your own assumptions with that consciously chaotic element that gives rise to something you wouldn't have thought of to begin with. And that's why I see a lot of folks struggle with solo oracles, because they want it to be that kind of, you left your keys under the couch cushion and it's there with 73 cents. They want the oracle to be that specific. Well, if you want it to be that specific, then come hire me for a psychic reading and pay me $10,000 and you'll have exactly that experience. Or you can realize that it's on you to bring those assumptions, connect them with the randomness of the role, and it will give rise to something interesting. So trust your first instinct with the role, and that's how you get something super new and interesting, rather than just trusting your instinct and staying in the same rut, going to the same dead ends over and over and over again. So, in in my perspective, it's good to have an oracle that is genre specific. But if you get something like the Mythic Game Master Emulator version 2 or whatever it is, then that is specific enough, but also broad enough to be applicable to any genre that you could possibly imagine. So don't try to make it too specific, because now you're trying to trap that oracle into the science and physics world, when this is a metaphysical meaning and intuition, nonlinear problem solving kind of thing. So that is the role of an oracle, is to come up with new and interesting details. And sure, it might go the complete opposite direction, and you don't have to go in a complete nonsense direction. You can still keep it kind of within bounds. And the Mythic Game Master Emulator does that. They can help you stay on track, and it's cool. I'll do a whole thing on it. But yeah, hopefully you stuck through all of what looked to be like random rambling, but I wanted to provide that historical context of how people have relied on oracles and the role that it fits into society, so that you can see, oh yeah, I shouldn't take this too seriously. I also shouldn't treat it too flippantly. I should actually like dedicate myself to following the roles. Otherwise, you're getting back into the same traps again. So, what questions do you have? Did I just confuse you more? Let me know in the comments. And if you're still here, leave a like. That'll let me know this is the stuff you want to see more of. And it helps YouTube know that other folks like you might appreciate seeing a video like this one. And talking about videos like this one, I'm going to leave it up to YouTube to show you what of my videos it thinks you would get the most value from, and that'll be here on the screen as well. Thank you so much for checking it out. I appreciate you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Roll out.